I like to tell this story because it really brings it home as to how tourism can change the world. And it goes back to what I was originally saying in the Ben Franklin quote, right, about world peace. I want to tell you a story about how tourism changed the world for the better. Okay? And it involves this place called the Soviet Union. For those of you who don't know, the Soviet Union no longer exists. It was broken up into Russia and Ukraine and all these other places. But the Soviet Union and the United States, when I was a young lad, shall we say, were the two superpowers in the world. And they were like the two biggest kids on the block. And everyone was convinced way back then that these two big kids are going to just have a fight one day. Now, unlike the neighborhood bullies that get into a fight, two superpowers having a fight is not a very healthy thing because they have nuclear weapons. And everyone was convinced that one day there was going to be a nuclear conflict between the two superpowers. Okay? Both the Soviet Union and the United States kept building better and bigger nuclear missiles to the point where we could destroy the Earth many times over. Okay. And so in 1980, a president came along and he said, I have a plan, we can defeat the Soviet Union and not fire a shot. Anybody know who that president was?
JFK?
Oh, after him, good guess though. 1980?
Reagan?
Ronald Reagan, excellent. Ronald Reagan came in and he said, I have a plan to defeat the Soviet Union. We're going to defeat them not militarily, but economically. Now, this isn't an economics class, this isn't a political class, but basically, we had two different systems. America's all about capitalism, the free market system. Hopefully you guys know about that. Soviet Union was all about communism and the planned economy. And we know for a fact that the free market is more efficient. Now, some people say it's not fair. Again, that's an argument for another day. But capitalism is far more efficient than planned economies. And so Ronald Reagan figured out, if we can outspend the Soviets, we'll eventually bankrupt them. Because we have more money and we have a more efficient system. And so what happened was the Soviet Union had what was called the Iron Curtain around it. And they did not let people into the Soviet Union without them really making them jump through hoops. And they absolutely did not let people out of the Soviet Union. And they did this for a simple reason. They wanted to control the information that their people got. This was way before the internet, okay? And so if you were a Soviet citizen, you were in this protected area where the free flow of information did not exist. And what happened was the Soviet Union would say to you, and I do a terrible Russian accent, but I'll try. Comrade, you're gay. You are living in paradise. You only have to wait in line for bread 6 hours. Everywhere outside the Soviet Union, they have to wait for bread for 12 hours. You are living in paradise. And if that's all you know, what happens? You believe it, right? Oh, okay, well, hey, we've got the best of everything here. Right? That's because they weren't able to talk to people on the outside world. Well, what happened was Ronald Reagan upped military spending. And he invested in a lot of things. Star Wars, I don't know if you ever, the Strategic Defense Initiative, which theoretically would never work. But he knew that if he spent this money, and the Soviets would try to keep up with him and spend their money on military. And less money you have, the more money you spend on military, the less you have on domestic things. And basically it got to the point where the Soviet Union couldn't keep up. And so they made a fateful decision. They decided we are going to let tourists come to the Soviet Union and bring money in. That will help our economy, and we can keep up with the American spending in the military. That's exactly where they fell into the trap. That's exactly what Ronald Reagan wanted. Try to say that 3 times fast. Because what happens when you start letting tourists in?
Information comes with them.
Information comes with them. What kind of information?
About like their, like where they live. We'll tell you about like what they do.
Yeah, and they come over and it was, I call it the blue jeans and Walkman revolution. Guys, do you know what a Walkman is? It's an iPod before an iPod. But all these people came to the Soviet Union and they had these blue jeans and these Walkmans. They had the best in technology. And the Soviet citizens said, what? Wait a minute, I want that. I like blue jeans. I like Walkman. How come they have that and we don't? And now all of a sudden their eyes were open. And this is kind of, and again, not a political class or a sociology class. But isn't it interesting how the world is changing so rapidly with the internet? Because all these societies before that were closed off now have access to the internet, and they start to see other ideas and how other people live, and then they start to question their government. Hey, wait a minute now. You said this is great. Well, I'm looking at how, these people live in France and America and Germany, and they have it much better than we do. And so what happened? In the 90s, the Russian citizens revolted and said, we're tired of the old communist system. We want a new system that treats us better. We don't want to wait in line for bread for 6 hours when most people in Western countries can walk right into any supermarket and buy bread instantaneously. It's not rationed, it's not planned. It's based upon getting what they want when they want it. And so they overthrew the Russian government. And it was a pretty bloodless revolution. Yes, some people got killed, but for the most part, the citizens rose up and said, we're not going to take it anymore. We want a new system of government. And so the Soviet Union fell. But it could not have fallen without the tourism, without the free flow and exchange of ideas between the different countries. And so that's, again, a great story of how tourism promotes world peace. We overthrew a superpower with tourism, didn't have to fire a shot. I'd say that's pretty cool, right? Now, I don't want to talk about Russia now, and it's all coming back in the news and everything, but this is back in the 80s and the 90s, okay?